Losers Bracket Podcast, round 115, and this week we're going to be talking a bunch of Starcraft and League of Legends. We'll be joined by Adebisi, who actually just worked at the MLG Starcraft Arena recently this past weekend, and also vVvFourth Oracle will be on the show in just a little bit to talk League of Legends as well. As per the normal routine, I am joined by my co-hosts. Got LordJerith, got Curt KeyHunt Carter from Check 6 Gaming. It's going to be a good show. Looking forward to it. Curt, how are you doing this week, sir?
I'm well. It was a really, really busy week. Like I told everyone last week, Sleep was at the Spring Arena 2 for us. I'm really proud of how he did. He didn't do, spectacular or anything, but I'm really proud of how he did. Really, really fun event. We played TSL tonight for the first round of IPL Team Arena, which is crazy. We did get TSL first, so everyone please start praying for us now. We'll need all the help we can get.
All right, and also, Jerry, you're joining us from a work conference, so thank you for taking some time out. I heard you had to cancel your cocktail hour tonight just to make some time for Losers Bracket, so we definitely appreciate it, sir. How are you doing, and how's your event going?
Excellent. It is always good to be back in DC because was at a conference where we're looking at like top corporation talent and then how they manage that talent versus how the government manages that talent, and then kind of letting them kind of cross-pollinate some of their best practices. So I got to spend the past couple days with some really great senior talent executives from some great companies. But I think the most interesting thing I did this weekend was spend a lot of time with the Chief Learning Officer for Homeland Security. That was pretty phenomenal. Education on how Homeland Security operates and what it does and what some of its learning and development challenges are. But on a lighter note, I also yesterday during the staff meeting was able to finally tackle our own strategy moving forward. And we had to make some big changes yesterday where we finally said goodbye to sort of Halo and Call of Duty for now, and we'll re-examine that again in the fall. But when the new game comes out. But until then, we're good. So yeah, I'm busy but good.
I like how you said a lighter note, and if we were to point out the fact that we dropped like 40 members from vVv, I don't know how light that's considered, but I agree.
It actually started kind of a little bit of drama on Twitter too. I'm not sure if you saw that, Jerry.
Yeah, well, I thought it was what I thought is interesting, and I think I saw between Sir Scoots and Golden Boy, and I think it's hard for people because in some ways, our roots are in the council, and it's nothing personal, right? We look at these things, and I have two obligations, and I think people often forget that, and I say this first and foremost. My first obligation is always to my staff. If my staff has to value things that, in essence, are low value, then they're being tasked with things that could be better spent on our high-value items. And whether you disagree with that or you don't like it or you feel that Halo and League of Legends are on par, I don't. Right? And I feel that, if I'm going to be the executive and lead the organization, I got to lead it in a way that I see appropriate. And that's nothing personal against Call of Duty or Halo, and we'll certainly look at it again when Halo and Call of Duty, the next iteration of the games, come out. But I need my staff focused on League of Legends. I need them focused on Starcraft II. We have Guild Wars 2 releasing next month, which is a huge focus for us. This is a quiet before the storm for our staff, if you think about it. Diablo 3 is out, and that's a fun game I want staff to enjoy. So, it's a tough decision. It's sad to see it go, but, it's just where we are in eSports right now, and I'm looking forward to doing more in League of Legends, doing more in StarCraft 2. Sugar Bear and Baby Toss from the Czech Republic are working on something really cool we're going to announce soon. And obviously, we still have our awesome presence in the fighting game community. Shout out to Sir Scoots for recognizing we have some of the best fighters in the world, and congratulations to CD Junior for landing a NOS sponsorship. And this is NOS country around here, so we're really proud of him, and we're glad to see him recognized for his accomplishments. So yeah, a little bit of drama, not always the easiest thing to do, but to be honest, I really do firmly believe we did the right thing.
As a quick question about that too, like people had talked about. I feel like I'm interviewing you now, but they some people had mentioned the fact that
Did I lose everyone?
No,
can you hear me?
Uh-oh.
That's good. Uh-oh.
Oh no, Jerry on his
my questions. My questions. He's dropping out. He's scared. He's scared.
No, that might actually happen a couple times tonight because Jerry's in an unfamiliar place, in Washington, D.C., a public internet. So, but nevertheless, we will continue the show. We'll get Jerry back in as soon as we can. And in fact, I heard him coming back in now. Sounds like he can't hear us. We'll get that fixed here momentarily. In the meantime, Curt, we actually are going to be bringing on someone for the first time to the Losers Bracket that is normally in the chat joining us. I'm really excited to bring him on. We'll be joined by Adebisi here shortly, who actually worked over at the MLG Arena this past weekend. So while we're waiting on Jerry to bring him in, why don't we bring in Adebisi in the meantime so we can learn a little bit about him. Sound good to you?
Sounds good to me.
And I apologize that I am back.
Whoa!
Wait.
Look at that. Hold on 1 second, Adebisi. We'll bring you in just a second. Curt, what was your question to Jerry?
Yeah, my question is that you, like you said, you do have some of the best fighters in the world, and you were recently quoted on Twitter, going quote unquote lean and mean. Are we going to see you guys, stepping away from the quote unquote talent factory thing, or are you still gonna just continue on with that? Some people had sort of questioned whether you guys were going to do that or not.
No, the talent factory idea still remains. I mean, I think what is always critical is that, we lingered with Gears of War, we lingered with Halo, we lingered with Call of Duty. We looked at how those teams could possibly use this downtime to gear up and ramp up for the next iteration of the game. Like right now, if I were a Halo player, if I were a Call of Duty player, I would be practicing my streaming, my casting, the things that the community is going to need. Should the developer do what is needed? And at the end of the day, I don't think we set the right environment for that. And it's unfair to keep the team. It's unfair to staff. It's just not right thing to do at all. So it's not a way at all moving away from the talent factory, but it is a focus. We have limited resources. A lot of the staff volunteers their time. And when and to be honest, I am beyond fortunate to have a staff who will go the extra mile when asked. But I also have to be aware, we're not just a Starcraft organization. We're not just a League of Legends organization. We manage a large community, which is a very special thing for vVv Gaming. I have to focus my staff on the most important games, because otherwise, if we try to do everything, we won't do anything right. And we have to try to do the things that are most important, where we're going to get the best value from. And that's why we had to focus on that. But it's not at all a step away from the talent factory. We have no desire to move away from the community model, which is critical to us. And we still have well over 100 people in vV Gaming, So, I mean, it's not like we can afford to drop a large and still have a large community left.
Yeah, I agree completely. I'm glad to see that too. I'm sure a lot of your community is as well. All right, Jason, let's bring in our first guest.
Indeed. This week we will be joined by this man right here, Adebisi. Welcome to the Losers Bracket, my friend. You have been a very big supporter of us in the past, so we definitely appreciate that. So we figured it's about time, with the MLG Arena just happening, to bring you on, talk about your experience at the event, and learn a little bit more about you. So with that being said, who is Adebisi? Give us a little bit of background.
Well, I'm not really sure where to start with that, but I've been a gamer all my life, like I imagine most of you guys. And Starcraft II is just a game that I've kind of taken with it, and I've run with it. I've done a lot of commentating of various events. I got the opportunity to work with MLG. I guess Orlando was the first event I helped cast on, like the secondary streams there, and then I just kind of continued along with all that. And to me, the biggest thing is just making this whole thing better. And there's been this big hole where you look at a Korean tournament and there's a dedicated observer and in-game camera person, if you want to call them that, whatever you want to call them. Foreign tournaments never really had that, and so that was a big thing. And that's, I guess, where I've kind of made my niche now, and I'm kind of going with that. And it's been a lot of fun. It's great to be on the show. I thank you guys for inviting me. I think your little podcast here is pretty awesome, and I do always look forward to it every week. So I'm happy to be on it.
Thank you so much. All right. With that being said, now, Let's talk a little bit about the arena this past weekend. Some pretty crazy results across the board, at least in my opinion. What was it like on the ground floor? Give us your opinion from the MLG studios in New York. How was it? What went down in person? Give us some stories.
I mean, it's kind of funny. This was, I guess, the third arena I've done now, and it's kind of at this point now where I show up at the MLG office, and it's kind of like my second family. I know all these people so well already. I know what I'm doing. We had the opportunity to add in some new features, which was actually really awesome. We did some of the picture-in-picture stuff, the instant replay, cutting to the first-person stuff, and I'm happy to say I was a part of making all that happen because. I mean, that's what I'm all about, just making the product that MLG produces even better, and I think I've really been able to do that. So it was awesome. The tournament itself, the bracket played out amazingly. I don't think anyone would have said there'd be 3 Zergs in the top 3, but that's what happened, and I think it happened in a way that, you know, it wasn't like, oh, geez, guys, there's 3 Zergs. It was kind of like, we got Stefano, we got Violet, we got Symbol, and it was it just played out really well, and there were lots of good games, and it was good.
You got a lot of people talking about the fact that there are 3 Zergs that won, and that it was right after a patch, and people are sort of downplaying the fact that they won. And I'm one of those people that think that's complete bullshit. I mean, you know, I'm one of those guys that, like, you're right. Like, to an extent, usually when a patch comes out, usually the buffed race is the one that ends up, you know, winning or at least doing well the tournament after. But I don't think that necessarily is like the reason that they won. It's not like I'm going to quote In Control here from Inside the Game, who said, or it might have been DJ Weed, who said, you know, you didn't hear a shoutcaster go, "Oh my God, he won that, you know, engagement because of the Overlord speed." Totally, it was the Overlord speed. You know? So, you know, I think that's a pretty amazing thing there that, you know, there wasn't. But do you think there was anything at all that sort of helped with the patch that really helped with these players getting to where they are? Or where they were for the event?
Not really. I mean, Symbol is a player who has been very under the radar. The Code 8 qualifier is so hard that he just hasn't really been able to make a big splash in the GSL, but he was just doing amazing in Iron Squid, and then he qualified for the arena and did good. And then Violet has been consistently improving, and I think he's gotten kind of so much experience now just playing, you know, in LAN events when he knows he's getting streamed. There's a lot of pressure, and he's just been able to do really well. I mean, it's just the players that did well, they deserved it. That's really it. I mean, they're all players that it's kind of like if you pick one of the 3, you're like, oh yeah, I definitely see them in the top 3. But then if you say these are the top 3, you'd be like, no way. But that's just how it goes, and I mean, that's good.
Yeah. I have to admit, Symbol, one of my favorite matches of the entire tournament was his team kill match against Pult in the winners bracket.
Yes.
That was just such an incredible match. Really lucky I got to catch that live when that happened. Just such back and forth action, and it's so funny to think Symbol came from the losers bracket, even though Pult won that match to take second place in the event. So really cool to see. Just a few minutes ago, you had actually mentioned the picture-in-picture, the new features. Absolutely loved those additions. I have a quick question about how that was done. Did you actually have, was that 2 different computers that were spectating?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool. Just making sure. And then the replay, how did they get that done?
That I'm not 100. Basically, they've got, you know, they're broadcasting that stream anyway, right? That's because they broadcast all the POVs, and so they basically just have that going. I don't know all the science of how a TriCaster works, but they just cut into that feed. And I mean, I got to give a lot of credit to the video production guys, Lennox and Ryan Thompson. They're all, you know, really on board with this stuff, and they're like, we just want to keep making stuff better. And so a while ago, you know, because it's kind of the thing where I talked to them the last race, yeah, you know, we should try and do some new stuff and see what we can do, and we did it. And I mean, it's funny, it's kind of a rocky start, you know, some of the picture-in-picture stuff, because as you guys know, like the first match on Friday and Saturday, they always stream for free, and we're like, oh, we really want to, you know, get some of these features in to kind of give people, you know, the taste to help sell them on it. And so to me, it's a big thing where it's like a lot of the time, less is more. So you want to make sure it's used appropriately, not overdone. And so some of it was a little bit nervous. There's certain points where it's like we're not sure if we can get that picture-in-picture up in time. And then it's like, well, all of a sudden I'm ignoring a drop that I want to be showing, but I'm thinking picture-in-picture's coming, so I'm not showing it. Then it's like, oh, God, what's going on? But it all went smoothly, and those video production guys, they know exactly what they're doing, and it was great. It was good. And I'm excited for more because, once again, with all the different organizations in the space now, it's just continuing to raise the bar.
Yeah, and I'd be really curious to know, and one thing that amazed me the most about that picture-in-picture, which, everyone did an amazing job with that picture-in-picture. I don't remember too many times where I went, and that's kind of useless. There was really, it was very, properly used. But one of the first people to use it was Sir Scoots over at EG Masters Cup, and they've always had an amazing production quality. Of course, thanks to Sir Scoots for that. What I'm kind of curious though is the fact that Sir Scoots does it off of replays, and you guys did it live. I wonder if there's a difference with that. I mean, I know he casts live, so there might not be a difference.
Exactly. There is essentially essentially there's no difference. But the thing how they do it is it's both of the caster screens, and so they kind of coordinate like when they first started doing it, basically, sorry, someone is coming into my room and bothering me right now, but I actually have a glass of tea, so that's nice. But anyway, when they first started doing it, basically, it would be the two caster screens, whereas, a big thing with the dedicated observing is that the casters, it's like a sports broadcaster, you're watching a feed, and then you commentate off that. And so what you don't want to do is you don't want to, give the caster another job, be like, okay, we might cue you to follow this drop, and then they have to worry about that as opposed to... following the stream. So basically how they do it is the same, except for we just have an additional person and it's all segregated off. And then all the casters guys, hey guys, we're putting up the picture, make sure you're watching the feed. And so the main thing is it just allows the casters to really focus on commentating. There's when I notice there's always a learning curve to it too, casting off of the feed as opposed to controlling your camera. And it just allows the casters to do much better. It's like I'll find when I look back and see them, they'll be standing up, they'll be having their arms up, they'll be talking, really kind of projecting a lot more. Whereas if they're controlling the feed, they're leaning in, they're hunched over, and they can't really talk as well. So that's why I think definitely MLG could have done the picture-in-picture much sooner, but it's about doing it in the right way. And the EG Masters Cup is kind of more of a casual, it's online, you're goofing around a lot, whereas MLG, it's much more... this is the event. This is a huge deal. Whereas, EG Mash Cup, it's an online tournament. Not take anything away from it. I watch all the time, but it's just it's a different tier of an event.
Sure. Yeah, I understand completely. All right, Jerry, I know you got some questions for Mike here. Have at him.
Yeah, thanks. No. I mean, it's really great to hear all of this. And Mike, I want to talk a little bit about people out there who. May think, wow, I really had never considered this as, as something to do. And I want to talk a little bit about how you got into it, how you trained for it. I mean, even how you discovered you were good at it. And I know, you sort of talked that you've casted before. So talk a little bit about that. And for some who may not know, who were some of the other people who do this and do this well and get recognized?
Yeah, just to answer that quickly, first off, it's really interesting. Basically, outside of Korea right now, the GSL, and then I don't know who does it for OGN, but the GSL is two players, Startail Legend, and then Heavens something. I'm blanking here, but I feel really bad. But basically, they work for the GSL, and they do it on basically a full-time basis. Otherwise, in terms of foreign tournaments, pretty much every other tournament just uses the commentator controlling the camera. I know that for the TSL, Hotbid was doing the observing for some of their games. And then the Gun Run did a little bit of NASL because of how their setup was a little bit awkward. But otherwise, I'm actually pretty much the only person to really do this for any tournament, which is kind of weird but kind of cool. Yeah. In terms of how I got into doing it, obviously I was helping cast on the secondary streams for MLG, solo casting, the open bracket, all that kind of jazz. And, I always kind of said, and, I'm good friends with some people who are good friends with some people. I made good friends with Nick and Dante Sartosis. And, whenever they come to these events, they're always like, man, I wish we had a dedicated observer, because they know how different it is to cast with a dedicated observer as opposed to casting with with one of the casters controlling the camera. You know, that whole thing, like, I could talk for hours, right? It's very interesting because, you know, there's so much talk about, ooh, who's a good commentator, who's this, who's that. And, you know, all the GSL casters get so much praise, and then what they do, though, it's night and day compared to casting over Skype with someone else where you're controlling the camera. And I think all these nuanced differences between how these setups work is really missed on people, because it drastically improves the commentary. You know, people always say, like, oh, are these guys, like, hungover or jet lagged or whatever, because their commentary doesn't feel as good as during the GSL. And I mean, a big factor is that, you know, they're worried about these guys are hunched over watching the mini maps so they don't miss details. And so basically everyone knew, and I give a lot of credit to the MLG staff, they knew they wanted someone in this role. And so, you know, I said, like, look, I've done a lot of commentating, but to me that's more of like something I do for fun. I've never wanted to be that big guy on the stage. I've never been someone who is really very comfortable in front of the camera. It's always kind of been something I've certainly dreaded a lot. So this was it was a really natural transition for me to say, and basically how it all worked out is for the first arena ever, the Winter Arena, you know, by day 3, enough players are eliminated that I was like, well, and I mean MLG too, they're like, well, how about you do it for now, for day 3, and then we'll see how it goes, and then we'll have you back doing it more as a primary thing, and it worked out well. So that's basically how I got into that role, because I already had a good relationship with everyone at MLG, and I knew the commentators, and I mean, that's another big factor too, is there's a big trust relationship. Just as like a commentator doesn't really want to cast with a random person off the street, they don't want to have just someone controlling the camera that they don't know, and all that chemistry really factors into it. So it's really worked out well.
For people that don't know, what are the mechanics behind all this?
Mechanics in terms of like specifically what I do, or like kind of the
like
setup?
I mean, what I mean is, like, how did the casters sort of interact with it? Mm-hmm. You know, because if the caster's not the one controlling the camera, how do they see it, and what do you do and stuff like that?
Basically, I'm sitting in like the same room as them, and I hear their commentary, and then I have a computer, and then on their desk there's a computer that gives a direct feed of my screen. So it's like if I'm pointing at something with my mouse, and if I'm doing whatever else, they're aware of that, and they're casting off of that. So it's, I mean, that's basically the setup. And then, I mean, at the championship events, it's a little bit different because it's not at the office with their studio. It's at, behind the Wizard of Oz curtain back there. But essentially, it's still more or less the same. And just the idea is that they look at what I'm showing them, and then they commentate off of that. And then they also, and then I listen to their commentary, obviously, right? And that's kind of one of the advantages that, I talked to Apollo a little bit about this, and because he's worked with Legend for IPL4, and, Legend isn't fluent in English. He knows some English, he can coordinate a bit, but, it's like when they're talking about a certain area of the map, I'll, box things, I'll show like where the bunker might go, all those little nuanced details that just kind of continue to fine-tune things. So that's basically how the setup works. And then my setup is I'm just in the game, clicking what I want, moving the camera how I please. Really nothing too insanely complicated. The picture-in-picture was the big thing, where there's another computer beside me, and then I kind of cycled between different people controlling that, and then towards the end, JP on day 3 is kind of the main person, and we had it like down to a sick science where like he'd just lean over and be like, Adebisi, ignore this drop, I'm going to cover it. And he'd talk in his headset to the video guys and be like, add picture-in-picture now, and then they'll do it. And it's just all about getting that rhythm down and having kind of good chemistry. It's just like any live production. The more you work with people, the easier it gets, and that's basically it.
I want to hop in real quick, Curt, and I was going to ask, looking at these advances, and I don't know if you can even comment on this, but is there anything you guys would like to do next? Like when you think about the next iteration of production value, where would you sort of go next? And, are there any technological challenges to that, or something you look forward to next time? Because, I mean, I think I have to agree earlier with what everyone else said. It was just so much better, and, kind of has me excited to think about, what other things might be in store.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because, I went through, a big inspiration was a lot of the OGN broadcasts, because they do such a refined job. And, one of the things I would like to see more is, instead of the small player cam at the bottom, I like to see during the game where there's kind of a lull in the action, nothing too important going on, just a real cut to the player face so that you can kind of the viewer can connect better to the player. Otherwise, though, I really don't think there's too much. I'm always thinking and trying to come up with more ideas, but I'm not really sure what else there is. I think with a lot of this stuff, though, I think a big part would be like just refining it that much more, getting the picture-in-picture, that much more refined, and I mean even exploring stuff like adding branding to it, right? Like the NOS replay analysis afterwards. Well, turn the picture-in-picture into the whatever brand precision cam or the drop cam or the flank cam, whatever. But kind of making it more like a sports broadcast. I always think of, I can't remember off the top of my head, but when you watch a baseball game and they are showing how fast the pitch is, that's always kind of branded with the company. So I think just looking at all the different leagues, all the like real sports, all of that stuff, and trying to figure out what works with this specific game. Because I mean, you look at something like League of Legends, and it's like, well, how do you factor in picture-in-picture to that? It's like, do you have 3 cameras with each lane? Like, no, that doesn't really work, right? So it's all about finding the right thing with the right game, and I think for now what we've got is good. But I'd love to see more stuff. I really love the first-person stuff, and I love the instant replay with the first person to really show, because I think a lot of it comes down to this, oh my god, this player just like made a huge mistake. He lost a ton of units because they were on like move command or something. But if you can then be like, well, how did that happen? Let's see what the player did to make that happen with an instant replay of his first person. And then you see, oh, he's doing all this other stuff. And then so that's where it all went wrong for him. And then it adds that much more, and it tells a much better story than like, oh man, he kind of messed up that engagement, right? Because a lot of the time the commentators don't know. It's just like, wow, well, I mean, he knows he shouldn't have done that. I'm sure he's like, well, shit, that shouldn't have happened, but you don't really know. And the commentators doesn't know, so you just got to move on from it, right?
No, I agree, and I that brings up something, and I'm not sure how familiar, or as someone who is involved in this, have you looked at League of Legends and their new sort of instant replay, and if it's something people comment about, or that you guys talk about and say, that's really cool, or Blizzard's going to do it, should do it, will do it, that sort of thing. I just like to hear the kind of shop talk that goes around that.
Honestly, like I really have not looked at any of the League of Legends stuff. I'm kind of monogamous with Starcraft II. I follow all esports, but like I don't play anything other than Starcraft II, and I haven't tried any of that. I've heard so many good things, and I'm eager actually to try it out, but I just straight up haven't.
It's okay to be passionate about Starcraft. That's allowed, right?
Nothing wrong with that.
So, go ahead, Jason.
I was just going to say there's nothing wrong with that. But, in League of Legends, you can, while a match is being played during the new spectator mode, you can zoom backwards and rewatch an engagement, rewatch a fight. So is that something as a caster, like for a live broadcast, that you'd like to see implemented? I mean, and we are going to see a lot of changes with Heart of the Swarm. Do you think that would increase the production value with something like MLG? And how would you like to see something like that implemented if you were going to talk to the developers?
Yeah, I certainly think it could. To me, it's all about, you got to be careful because, less is more. And if you implement picture-in-picture and it's sloppy and whatever else, then it detracts from the overall thing. So it's a slippery slope. And I think the word gimmick is what you want to avoid. You want to make sure it's all additive. And I think as long as Blizzard is, on the ball with things, I mean, there is definitely a lot of improvement. I mean, one example would be, I'm sure you guys wear the overlay at the top of the screen where one player's blue, one player's red, and then down at the bottom the pictures, the players are lighted appropriately. Mm-hmm. And then we have the in-game overlay that shows the supply. But the thing about that is that in-game overlay relies completely on the spawn locations in the game. So sometimes it has to get swapped. And so that's one obvious thing where it's like, well, hopefully Blizzard can fix this Heart of the Swarm. And I definitely think there's some other features. But I mean, honestly, with technology like the TriCaster, I feel that it's not necessarily needed in the game. But it could be good because I like the idea of the instant replay with like the picture-in-picture of the live game still going on. And so that's kind of beyond what you could do in the game. But I guess you maybe could do that. I don't know. It's the kind of thing where I'd have to have a back and forth and really know what they're capable of, because there's kind of a long laundry list of what they're going to do. Like, watching replays with multiple people that is kind of long overdue. So,
right.
Yeah.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Curt, I know you had a question. Shoot the mic on over to you.
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious because you hear, some people talk really, really big things about statistics and stats, and
Yes.
stats being really the next big progression. Sir Scoots being one. Jerry, you had a whole rant about it. I think 20 episodes back or so. Of course, I agree. What are your opinions on the stats, though? Where do you think we need to take this as far as the next big thing with stats?
Yeah, that is like another thing I'm a huge advocate of. And that was another thing MLG started doing more. They're doing like game length, stuff like that. And I just think it needs to be basically refined more to have a real database. Because right now, you've got TLPD, which anyone who doesn't know, it's the Team Liquid Pro Gaming database, where you can get win percentages of maps, you can get all kinds of stuff, but it's like there's no categorization. So it's like something like the, a GSL finals would be weighted the same as like the round of 64 in a play-in daily, right? Like it doesn't. So I think there needs to be much better categorization, and I think just more diversity in stats. I actually remember Jerry's rant, and it's like it's like after your fourth match, or how well are you playing? Because this tournament was a great example. Polt, I don't want to take anything away from Violet. He won the whole tournament. But the games I saw from Polt against Dongregu and Symbol, he actually played much better, in my opinion, than he did against Violet. And so if you can have statistics about, okay, this is the, he's played X amount of matches already today, and this is his win rate. Like, does he always win the first match of the day? How does the second one compare? And all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And honestly, to me, the sky is the limit. And it is so important because, once again, StarCraft is a game where it's actually fine to talk about Polt's games again, because I literally, honestly, I felt like I was having deja vu. I observed the same game 9 times in a row. It would be Wonderax Command Center, into Double Gas, Reactor Hellion, into Cloak Banshee, 3rd Command Center, Double Engineering Bay, and it was deja vu. It's the exact same game again and again. But if you can factor in stats and stuff to help drive people's interest, right? Because it's like, well, another Terran versus Zerg isn't, and sometimes, maybe it does get boring. So when you factor in those stats, that's what can help drive it. It's exactly, baseball is the key example of where stuff like that makes it more interesting. And I mean, every now and then you're going to have a game where it's like, this is going to be a one-sided stomp. But on this map, in this matchup, in these spawn locations, this guy is like a sick opportunity to do this. And if you can hone in on that and then give the viewer more of a reason to care, then it's so important. So I think stats is there's so, it's completely unexplored, because right now it's basically like win rates on certain maps, and that's it. And that's cool and all, but it's got so far to go.
Yeah, I remember because every once in a while somebody will get lucky and just come out with a stat that sort of blows people's minds, and I remember one of the very first ones we heard. Do you remember what I'm talking about? I remember Slasher quoting Idra's stat.
The Idra, yeah. If he loses game 1, then
he'll definitely lose game 2.
He'll basically never win.
Yeah. And people were like, "Wow, really?" And people that really amazed people. So yeah, I completely agree. I've got one last question about I guess you personally, and then I think we're going to delve a little bit into the actual arena results a little bit before we head off. But what I'm kind of curious about is I joke every once in a while, and I appear on shows every once in a while, man. And every time I do, for instance, I was on the Chan Man V show, the Climbing the Ladder show with Bitter and John Clark, and every time I do, I see you in the chat. All right, I see you trolling the chat, and I'm just kind of curious, man. How the hell do you find the time to do it? Because I do see you in here almost every week, and I see you in Climbing the Ladder and Pro Corner, and every other show on the planet, and then you also do the ESV weekly, right? I believe for the tournament series and then show matches and stuff like that. So, how do you find all the time to do it?
I mean, honestly, a lot of it just comes down to I have a lot of free time. Basically, I've just been finishing up my undergraduate, and I worked a lot during my first 2-3 years of university, I worked at a casino blackjack dealing, and so I've just been finishing off school. I kind of have a fair amount of free time, and whenever I'm just on my computer a lot, and I'll watch basically anything. And I mean, podcasts to me are one of the most interesting things, and I don't mind watching tournaments with just gameplay with the commentary muted. So I'll mute that, put on whatever podcast. I'll often plan kind of my day around tuning into certain things, and I think a lot of the podcasts, I was gonna say, the Good Show today was great, and as you said, climbing the ladder, I only caught the end of that today, but these podcasts to me are just so fascinating, and to me, because honestly, my long-term goals are to work in esports on more than just being the in-game cameraman. I want to help plan big picture things, and you got to be a student of history, and you gotta learn what you can and see where there's successes. So I mean, tuning into Climbing the Ladder and hearing what Mr. Bitter has to say, and hearing what John Clark, and then it's just one of the most interesting things to me. I mean, The Executives is another great example of a show that it's just interesting stuff. So I'm always happy to tune in. I mean, I watch Game of Thrones, and that's it. My media is Starcraft II related stuff.
Yeah, amen to that, man. and see, that's the funny thing too, is I think a lot of people really take that for granted and don't. People that want to get in because of StarCraft, or because they're passionate about StarCraft, or passionate about League of Legends, they take the history for granted and they don't really look back at history. And I'm telling you, in my personal opinion, and Jerry I think would probably agree, that if you don't look back at history, you are destined to repeat it. Well, and that's why the shows like the Executives and stuff like that, I like to think help. So.
Well, I mean, I think the interesting thing is that people have different motivations, and I think what we do is, for us, some shows, I think we try to be more of the Charlie Rose type show, where we sit down and it's a long interview, and it's we're going to get to the really heady stuff, and you need someone to do that. You need someone to do a Charlie Rose type serious interview, and there are others that do things that are much more light in content, or they're a little bit more charged. And not that I would consider my rants per se Charlie Rose-esque at all, but
more like Mickey Rooney.
Yeah, no, we're live, right? But I mean, and those moments, those are generally, it's really difficult, because I think sometimes, when I see something that I think is rather ridiculous, it may at first, I don't reveal my motivation, and I certainly try really hard never to lecture anyone on what they don't know. I mean, it would be horrible if I came in and I said, it's wrong because of this, and this, and, you lack the experience in these areas. And I don't want to start that sort of, my experience versus your experience conversations. So I think the rant is my way of blowing off that steam. But, I mean, coming back to sort of being someone who wants to work in esports full-time, exploring career options and staying really informed. And I think for a lot of people who, I say they shoot for the big jobs, they want to be a caster or they want to be a pro player, but we have an enormous amount of infrastructure in esports if we're going to make this work that we need filled. And I think you're a prime example of the kind of infrastructure that sometimes goes unnoticed, yet is so critical, especially as you talked about earlier. You're developing a great relationship with casters. You are, in many ways, developing a trust relationship where you make them look better, and the audience gets a better experience. I mean, that's probably, when we're watching professional sports, I am quite certain we take the cameraman for granted. I mean, I don't think I think about the cameraman. I expect a certain high standard when I'm looking at sports, which is a credit to all those cameramen, because if it was crappy, I probably would notice it right away. What do you think, and we talked earlier about you casting and having a desire for that. Do you think it's possible do we have enough people doing what you're doing? Do we need more? I know a lot of casters do it themselves. I want you to talk a little bit about your motivations for doing what you do.
Motivation is kind of tricky. I mean, do we need more people doing it? It's a hard thing to say, right? Because you look at, what kind of infrastructure do you need for this? Because if it's an online tournament, people are casting via Skype, it's not the same thing at all. And that's where I would say with stuff like that, just have the casters do it, right? And then you look at, it's like, should NASL have someone doing this? Well, it's like, it's a business decision. It's like, is it worth paying someone to sit there, basically be the third caster who doesn't actually say anything but controls the camera? It's difficult. It's really on kind of the leagues to figure out, do you want to have the best production in this whole thing? And, if you're okay just putting out, I don't want to say a mediocre product, but like I guess second tier is the only way to describe it, right? If you want to try and beat what the GSL and OGN and all the Korean organizations do, then you need someone doing this. So do we need more people doing it, though? It's kind of tricky. I mean, once again, it's a business choice, right? It's like, how many streams should MLG have? I know Curt talks about this a lot. It's like the open bracket doesn't get enough coverage. Well, I mean, how much money do you want to spend getting more streams up, getting more casters? And then what production quality do you want on that? Because, I mean, on the mainstream, there's a whole lineup base. Well, not like a massive lineup, but there's a whole line of video production guys. And then you've got me, and then, this arena, I have someone assisting me, and I'm directing them to do the picture-in-picture stuff. And then you've got the commentators, and then the commentators need breaks. And it's tricky because, I mean, the last... I was lucky this weekend. The days were a bit shorter, but, I mean, I was going, like... Basically, when the stream is live, I'm there, sitting there at the desk, and, at the end of a 10-hour broadcast, it's like, whoa, this is kind of killing me. And so, to me, I think down the line, do we need more people? Absolutely, but I think it's still a growing thing, right? And it's really more on the leagues to decide if they want to get people doing this. And it once again comes back to the challenge of getting the right person, because as I said before, you need someone who, like, I've watched a lot of StarCraft, and I've also played a pretty hefty amount too, and I know all the matchups in and out. And you need someone who can do that, but it's like the thing is, like, when you look at a commentator, like someone who comes in and commentates for MLG, you can look at the GSL guys. Yeah, they work full time for GoMTV, and that's what they do. But then you look at someone like Apollo. He's he comes, he'll do all the dream hacks, he does MLGs, and then he's got stuff with the Good Studio, and it all kind of supplements, and then it puts into a whole package. Whereas it's like, well, you say you want to be an observer. Well, it's like, okay, you can work, 1 weekend a month, and that's not really a full-on living, right? So it's kind of part of the growing pains, I would say. And it's also really challenging for events, because all of a sudden you need to change your whole little studio setup, right? You need another computer. You need to give the casters the direct feed. And that just complicates things, right? So it's all about the growing pains, and it just comes down to, do the tournament organizers, and then also, I mean, do the casters. I mean, Apollo and other, like, it was the first time Total Biscuit ever commentated with the, with a dedicated observer, and I think by the end of it, he was sold. It's like, this is the way to go in the future, but it takes time, and it's just a growing thing. But I definitely think in the long run there definitely needs to be more people doing this.
Awesome. I want to throw one other thing out there, and that is, for someone who is, I mean, I don't know if this is like asking you to give away the secret sauce, but when you look at that StarCraft map and that match is starting out, do you have a system? Do you break the map down? I mean, you obviously know the maps very well. You know where action is expected, but do you do other things? I mean, and I don't, like I said, I want you to spill it, but I think when you're good at something, you can share it, because it's really hard to mimic talent. Now, you definitely have it, so I just want to sort of ask that question.
I mean, it's nothing too complicated, really. Like, when the game starts, I'll just, when there's nothing going on, maybe I'll show Zelnaga Towers, the expansions, maybe show ramp sizes. But for the most part, the most important thing is knowing how a build order works. So it's like, I mean, I play Terran, so I'm always best at observing something like a Terran versus Zerg. It's like how I was saying before, I'm having deja vu observing the same match again and again. And so you want to, it's like whenever a Terran player adds in those additional gas geysers, that you want to be there as the SCV is going to do it. You don't want to be there waiting for it to happen. You want to be there when it happens. And you don't want to be there after it happens. You want to be there when it happens. So it's just, it's just on it. I mean, it's the same thing as a lot of commentating. People say you need so much game knowledge to commentate. And I would say the same is true observing. You want to understand how the build orders work, and you want to be able to understand how I mean, one of the biggest things that makes StarCraft awesome to watch is that, you know, the spectator has full information, but the players don't. So you want to try and highlight what the players don't know. So like a big thing with Protoss versus Zerg is when does the Protoss add the third and fourth gas, and is the Zerg watching for that? Because if the Zerg isn't watching for that, then they're not really, you know, they're not going to know exactly what's going on. So as the observer, I'm always keeping tabs and showing vision. Whenever someone's scouting, you want to be able to keep tabs on that. And to me, that's the most important thing is being able to frame the game in terms of what the players are seeing. So it's like if they get caught completely off guard by something, you know, you don't want to be like, oh, they're an idiot, he let a probe get across the map. You want to show where that probe like scooted by an overlord, and the overlord was like, you know, an inch away from seeing it. And it's all those subtle little things. And there's really no like one thing that's like, to be a good observer, you need to do this. It's just practice. And I mean,
I was going to just say something. I think you are pointing to something really important, and that's you really do also understand your audience's experience. And because if you really think about it, you can hear the breath move in, like as soon as somebody sees, you know, will that unit or will that SCV or probe or will it miss that scout, right? Will it get missed, right? And then all of a sudden you have a proxy pylon somewhere and you're like, oh my God, he doesn't see that, right? And now the tension builds, and now there's this sort of energy about it. Will this work? What will happen? The anticipation. And you're right. That is, I think, absolutely what makes StarCraft so phenomenal to watch and such a great experience for people. But I mean, I think you're talking about the audience's experience and you're talking about things. So, you know, if somebody wants to get into this, you absolutely have to know your build orders. You have to know the timing of these builds, and you have to know when to be there on time, as well as paying very close attention for, you know, we can call it the scouting, but there are other opportunities that are these tension points, these points that will build drama because of what another player doesn't know. And as the cameraman, you have to be constantly scanning for those moments based on the players. And that sounds fair, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. All right, well, that's all I have. I know we got to move, so Curt, I want to give you a chance for any final things, and Jason, then I'll let you close it up. And Mike, it's been fantastic, but I'm going to let them take it from here.
Yeah, I've got maybe two questions left. One of which I want to ask a quick question about Arena. You know, the actual matches. I just want to know what was your favorite match? Like, I mean, you were, you know, in the quote unquote, I guess the grind of it there. You know, you got to see it firsthand. What was your favorite match?
I think my favorite match would have been MMA versus MC. The opening match was definitely one of them. That was a pretty insane match.
That was an amazing series.
And then
that's actually my favorite.
And then Dong Regu versus Pol, Game 3 on Entombed Valley. That is a game that I think everybody should watch. Basically, it just came down to Pol was like, he had 20 SCVs left against 90 drones after some bad counterattacking, and Pol just rallied and played a ridiculous game.
Basically won with like 3 Marines.
Yeah, it was insane. It was definitely insane. And then the other one, I guess I'd have to, you know, give a little credit to the finals. I think the game on Metropolis between Violet and Symbol was another pretty wild game with the Niduses going off and these paper thin timings with, you know, a single attack upgrade really driving everything. So,
Jerry, did you get a chance to see one of those matches? I'm not sure how much you were able to watch, but
I had a busy weekend. So, which match in particular do you mean? Like
MMA MC first round was really good.
No, I didn't. I had not come back. I worked late that day, so I didn't get the start of it.
Yeah, that was an amazing match. And he also mentioned the Dong Regu versus Polt match, where, you know, like you said, basically it was 90 SCVs to like, you know, 30 drone. It was rough, man.
It was a game where it's like you can't. When you look at it, everyone and the casters were just like, you know, this game is done. Polt cannot win this. And that's what everyone was expecting because, you know, Dong Regu, best Zerg player in the world. And that added so much to it. It's like, Dong Regu, this is the returning champion. This is a guy who should basically sail to the finals, right? And then in a game 3 where it looked like Polt was done for, he rallied and got it done.
Yeah,
it was pretty amazing.
That's always one of the most exciting things in a tournament, when someone is just obviously expected to win at a certain point in a game, and the other player just finds some miraculous way to pull together, and their will to win is just never daunted. They just find a way to push through. That's always cool. Curt, continue on. Sorry about that.
That's what I really enjoyed about the MMA MC matches too, is that there were certain times in the matches where it was like, oh no, there's no way you can come back from this, and then all of a sudden he did. It was really, really, really amazing match. Anyway, my last question, man, is we unfortunately we had you on right after we were having you on right after an arena, so we're talking strictly just about your ob skills and the arena and stuff like that. We're not really getting into your opinions in the community, and I know you have a ton because you are fairly vocal. That's one thing about you, man. I have noticed that you are fairly vocal on Twitter and in chat and stuff like that. You usually don't let your opinions not show, which I like a lot. So even if I don't agree with them sometimes.
I just want to jump in there and say I really appreciate that too. It actually worries me sometimes that you don't get mad at me. I'm really worried. Why doesn't Mike usually doesn't say mean things to me? Maybe I'm not that bad. You give me hope because I know you're always listening. Like no matter what goes on, somewhere Mike's paying attention. Right?
He comes out from behind the curtain. Hey, I heard that.
There are very few people whose tweets I don't get involved in, and Mike's is one of them. Like Sir Scoots is another one. I'll watch and I'll say I don't need to comment. And it also strikes me really funny when if you don't pay enough attention to people's personalities and their role, someone will tweet, and then someone who really has no business to be in the conversation jumps in as if, I want you to know that I'm important. And those always upset me. So I try now, there are many, many Twitter conversations that go on that it's not that I just don't want to say anything because I don't want to be that guy, the guy who thank you. We're having this discussion, and I appreciate you weighing in your opinion to support one or the other, but we really got this. Thank you. So I do appreciate your candidness at times. It's really refreshing.
Yeah, and because of that, though, we really didn't have a chance, for this particular show to talk to you much about your opinions on certain things. So I'm going to pull a random scandal out of a bag here. All right, I'm going to go into my bag of tricks. We'll pull a random scandal. I'm going to ask you a question. The Destiny situations. What do you think, man? What's your opinion? What is the opinion of Adebisi? And I don't want you to get a million hate emails.
Oh, right. You're right. We might as well go here. I mean, we might. You're right. Mike watches this show long enough that we don't have to shield him.
Hold on. Is my email on Team Liquid anywhere? Let me remove it.
I mean, when it comes down to the Destiny situation, for me, it all depends on what specific instance, because I'm not a big fan of people getting punished on an extended, a long-term thing for it. Like basically, for example, with the Gigabyte LAN, Destiny, he got a lot of shit. And then he said, he basically left Quantic, parted ways, whatever you want to call it. And then he said, look, guys, I'm done with racial slurs. I'm done with it. And along with that, I would assume he's done, with calling people faggot, whatever else. He said he's done. And so to me, it's should this guy, have a stain on his resume for the end, for as long as he's around? Should he never be able to commentate an event? Should he never be able to do anything? That's what bothers me. And I did send out one tweet about how many people does it take to email Gigabyte to get this guy canned? Because this is the internet, and every now and then some people on 4chan like to have some fun and then mass upvote certain things on Reddit, and then it gains traction. And so it's a scary thing to me when an online community that can be no offense to them. No offense, I love all of you online guys, but sometimes the online community can be a little bit bipolar about things and go all topsy-turvy, and it just takes one person saying one certain thing to railroad people. And I think that's a scary thing when this headless monster on the internet has so much power about what's going on. Because, I mean, I agree there's a very important line for professionalism, and if my webcam froze, I'll just go ahead and turn my video on and off here.
It's funny. It cleared up as soon as you turned it off. That was awesome.
Oh, there. I turned it back on now. Hopefully it should be okay. But anyway, I mean that's my stance on the Destiny thing, because at the end of the day, he's a smart guy, and he does a lot. I mean, Destiny raised more money than anyone else for charity in the StarCraft II community, and no one wants to talk about that. People would rather say, "Oh, this guy uses offensive language on his personal stream that's rated 18+." It's like, who complains that Howard Stern is saying what he says,
Mike,
right? Like,
just a thought. I want to throw a thought out there. Do you think, and I think this is the important question, do you think if he was, there are a lot of ways to insult. Like, imagine the giant pantheon of insults, right?
Oh, yeah.
This giant way, right? If he just took away nigger, faggot, right? If he just took away a couple words, by all means, Destiny, run wild. All we're asking is, if you want to be in the center stage, can't you remove the faggot and the nigger, right? And it's like there's this stubbornness. It's like all or nothing, right?
If somebody took that sentence out of context, this show is over. We're going down.
Oh, that's fine. By all means, take it out of context. Wind them up, right? My track record in the space of diversity is professional. It's not a bunch of Kim Rom. But yeah, no, but I think it's really important, right? Like, the problem isn't that he is an asshole. Assholes completely have a place. But
you're
the problem
one yourself,
is that he
right?
crosses the line. Yeah, I mean, I think I've got my moments where, you definitely wouldn't necessarily go, wow, he's really compassionate and sympathetic. By no means. But I think that's where, for me, the line's drawn, right? It's not gook. All those racial and homophobic and the things that really are important to see, what people don't understand is how business works, right? B2C companies, those are the companies we're looking at, business to consumer. They are graded by how much money they invest in basically minority marketing, right? They're graded. Somebody looks at, hey, how much dollars does General Mills or does McDonald's put to marketing to African Americans, to marketing to Latinos? Somebody looks at that. That's an important figure. If they get graded on that, I cannot tell you how the word nigger looks in corporate America. I can't even give you how far removed that is from that culture. And we need those dollars. If this is going to grow, we need those dollars. And I think it's the community's responsibility, or those advice. Just somebody pull them aside. Like, I remember Mark from Quantic Gaming. We're the people's whatever shit it was. We're gonna fix them. You didn't fix shit. What you did was you enabled him to continue doing it without interfering. That's the problem. You should have pulled him aside right away and said, look, there are rules. Be an asshole, but understand where the line is. And that's always been my point about what we're doing. I would, Mike, like to see more companies get in. So you're hired full time, and your experience is now seeding better viewing opportunities, that you're able to train other people down the road so you can grow and do more in esports. We need that to happen. And if we're going to look long term, and we're going to see that development pipeline for people to move up and do more and bring their expertise, we need more money infused. And the only way to get that is to be very self-policing about these moments. The fans can say nigger. The fans can say spick. The fans can say the internet can say whatever it wants. But if you are going to be looked at as a part of esports on the professional end, you can't cross that line. Because if you do, you've given a sponsor who's looking for an excuse, not sure, my competitor got in, wow, McDonald's is doing this, or maybe Wendy's starts out and then McDonald's like, should we do this? And someone says, but look at this guy. McDonald's says, I'm not doing it. And all of a sudden we've lost $1 million. Bam, disappeared because we didn't self-police. And that comes from experience. So again, it's not that Destiny can do all that he does, but we have to be conscious of these really hard boundaries. That's my point.
Yeah, I mean, like, I agree with all that. It's just what I don't want to see is people get railroaded. I don't want to see, people have, someone go back a year in someone's stream archive and say, oh, here's a screenshot of him calling this this name. And it's like, well, that was a one-off incident. And because, the internet's a scary thing. And there's a lot of people in different communities that are jealous of where certain people are. And they're just kind of out to get each other. And to me, that's just a scary aspect of this whole kind of industry where, if you just, it's the pitchforks on pitchforks, right? Like, it's scary to me sometimes. That's basically where I worry, because I I completely sympathize with all the concerns of how that language has such a bad impact in the long, just how it reflects on any brand attached to a person's behavior. Even if that behavior doesn't happen during that event, if they do it outside of that, it still all ties back in, and you have to be aware of that stuff. What I don't like is when people are just out to get certain people, like who is emailing who, and like if a commentator says, "Oh, this guy's play was bad," and then this guy gets his fans to email whoever, like to me, it's just a slippery, scary slope in certain areas.
Mike, you would agree with me when I say this to you. If you're a celebrity, if you have any kind of fame, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
If you're Tom Cruise, you're Brad Pitt, you're any actor or actress, you're a famous sports player, go ahead and try to use the word nigger. I challenge you to see what happens.
Oh, no, right? Absolutely. I mean, it's just like you look at, Team Liquid 4 years ago. It was not what it was today. And if you go through some of it, like every single, well, not every single, but a good amount of pro gamers, go look at their post history and then make a collage of that and then email that to whoever sponsor, right? Like that. It's just like that's the road that sometimes I fear people may go down to target certain people because they have, personal issues, right? Like that's where I get scared.
And I understand what he's saying. I do, and I think you do too, Jerry. It's just, I do think to an extent we do need to have people that are, you need to have sort of a no holds barred policy, like, look, you fucked up, and until you prove that you are worthy of, the position of power that you're being put in, then we're going to make sure you're not put in that position of power anymore. I do, kind of agree.
No, and I agree.
That.
Look, I agree that, and I say as an industry, we have to be prepared for the excuse, and we have to be honest. Look, McDonald's, before we got big, this happened, right? And people say stupid things on the internet. I challenge you to find that now. That's the best we can do. And if McDonald's takes it and takes that risk, yay, right? Maybe they will. But thankfully, McDonald's isn't looking right now, and we have plenty of time to clean this up. But the way to clean it up is to right now say unequivocally, we will not tolerate that behavior. And I'm saying that only because I know these people really well. And if you want to make sure that they never give you $1, there are certain things you should avoid. And they're pretty tolerant, right? I mean, McDonald's has young employees. They get the internet. People can handle a worker who looks at porn. There are stupid things that people do at work and in their life that somehow get absorbed, right? Really stupid things. But there is this invisible line that should you cross it, you're on your own. And whether or not idealistic young people want to believe that that's not right, those voices are horribly wrong in this one particular case. I think it's important that we, who are involved and passionate about this and want to see talented people make careers in it, that we just are very we have to be a unified front and say we don't want witch hunts. And a matter of fact, we want to hide it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Just get rid of it. We want to hide the past. We want to grow up. But we need it all together, not dilute our message. And if we start to get in the nuance of, well, is Orb really racist? I don't give a shit if any of them are racist. I don't care. I give a shit if McDonald's cares that they said nigger. That's what I care about. So don't use that word, period. No one wants to grade your politics, your religion. No one wants to get into your personal stuff. They want you to be universally accepted, that you have a broad platform that many people can relate to. That's important. But if you cross a line, then we run into that danger. And I really do think we are agreeing. And Curt, I think we are all agreeing.
Yeah, no.
And I think the fears are definitely there. And I certainly don't think we ever want to look in the past, right? Right. That's the problem with young people running websites. Go to VV website for the past 5 years. That's a whole different story, right? You won't have that problem. But that's only because we built it that way. When Team Liquid started, you have young people involved. They're not thinking about those things, right? So it's a little bit harder to build it. But we certainly can scrub it, and we certainly can move forward from this point, so that we're not losing those opportunities. I don't think anybody.
This is what happens when I bring up a topic. It was supposed to be a short topic. We go in for 20 minutes. I'm telling you, man, I am the best at that. Look at that. Look at that.
All right.
But I had another topic, but I don't think we have time for it.
No, we have no time. I know here's what we got to do. I was going to say, if we got a call, we can take it, but otherwise, I think we got to stop.
I think we should actually head on to League of Legends. Because we are very quickly running out of time. Fourth Oracle will be up next. I think that we should wrap this on up with Mr. Adebisi. Not saying I didn't enjoy the time. In fact, I'd love to continue this because this has been a really great interview. I'm really happy.
We're gonna hit you back up when some more drama happens, so you can come in for that. What do you say? What do you say?
Sounds like fun.
I actually got a message on Skype, just so you know, that said you need this guy on more often. I am quoting that exactly. So just to point that out to you, people have enjoyed you being on the show, so we really appreciate you taking the time to come on. Before we do let you go, like we always do with our guests, I'd like, if you have any shout-outs, that you could give them now. So if you do have anybody you'd like to give a shout-out to, please, the floor is yours.
I'll give, I guess, two shout-outs. One, just all of the people that I work with at MLG. They're always great. I love going down to their office. I'm looking forward to Anaheim, hopefully, because I've never met you three guys, and hopefully I'll be able to. I'm always chained to a desk at these events, but hopefully I'll have enough time to meet you three. So shout out to you guys too, actually. But and the last one, just to ESV. I still do commentating for the most part. We're off. We've canceled this week, but usually Monday to Wednesday we do basically a weekly tournament on the Korean server, and it's a lot of like kind of the B teamers, unknown guys. But it's a great tournament if you want to see like just names that you don't know, but they play like even better in a lot of cases than top tier players that travel around the world. It's a great tournament, so you can always find that. It's just ES Vision on Twitch. Monday to Wednesday is when we usually commentate that, and otherwise, just thanks to you guys for having me on. I'm a big fan of your podcast. I think one of the most important things is just podcasts like this. I love watching it, and as you said, like it's great. Climbing the Ladder is another good one. The Executives, the Good Show is a new one that Too Good has been doing. That is always quite entertaining. There's actually a lot of topics in that show.
That was hilarious tonight.
Yeah, we could have talked about a lot from that show. Maybe next time.
Yeah. Too Good doesn't care, man.
Does not care. and then another podcast actually is Starcast, which is just two independent guys. They've interviewed all kinds of different people, Kennegits or Scoots, and they do a really nice, just kind of simple podcast. They're not, the one thing about what they do is they're not affiliated with any organization, so they just try and give a nice straight up interview, and their podcast has kind of been growing a lot. So that's about it. Thank you guys for having me on, and thank you for supporting me. I'm glad you guys always notice my one-liners there in chat, and they're not lost in the sea of spam.
No, definitely not. Adebisi, actually, Jerry and I just sent you our numbers. We'll meet up in Anaheim. Let's have a drink or something. It'll be a good time. We really appreciate it yet again, my friend, and look forward to seeing you in just a couple weeks.
All right, thanks, guys.
Take care, buddy.
Take it easy, buddy.
Take care. Good luck.
All right.
He's always a lot of fun, man.
That was really good. I really enjoyed having him on. It's really cool to see a different side of things than what we normally see. A cameraman for StarCraft doing the observing. Really neat. A little bit different and very enlightening, to say the least. I think we should take a quick commercial break so that we can pull forth Orklin, start talking about some League of Legends, and then come on back in. So, sound good to you guys?
Sounds good to me.
Awesome. We shall be right back. Stay tuned for more Losers Bracket. All right, we are back on the Losers Bracket. We talked a little bit of MLG and Anaheim. Listen to me. We've talked a little bit about the MLG Spring Arena #2 that just happened over the weekend with Adebisi, and we were originally going to have Fourth Oracle joining us. His internet, unfortunately, not working as well as it should. Jerry, Curt, let's actually do something a little bit different. Let's take a couple calls. We'll get some people in here. We'll discuss whatever people want to talk about. And hopefully we'll be able to reschedule Fourth Oracle for the future. Does that sound good to you guys?
Sounds good to me. Yeah, I mean, guys, just so you know, these calls are a chance for you to ask us anything. My mother's maiden name, favorite color, what we think about certain situations. Whether
Social security number, yeah.
Maybe. We will. A few Black Russians, right? But, so, I mean, anything like that, feel free to call in and we'll try our best to answer. I don't know if we'll answer vVv Spike, but we'll answer pretty much everyone else.
Yep, sounds good to me. What we'll do is, if you would like to ask a question, join in on the conversation, the way to do so is to add me on Skype. It's just strictly vVv Paradise. Add me as a friend, message me your question. That way, I know what you're going to be coming in for. Calls will be randomly selected, so don't think we're playing favorites. And we'll also need to make sure your equipment works before we add you to the call. If we don't hear any sound, if there's any feedback, things like that, we're going to get you out of the call. But let's see if we can take some calls. Actually, already starting to get people messaging in. And I'm going to add the first person to the call right now that is calling on in. And we'll see what they would like to talk about. He's actually asking a question about sequels in eSports. So, got our first call coming in. And
I'm giving him a call.
Yeah, this one is John. And as soon as he picks up, we'll have him joining us. In the meantime...
There we go.
There we go.
Oh, shit. Skype's way louder than stream.
Welcome to the
I just got like my
bracket,
ears
John.
blown. Alright.
How are you doing
Thanks,
tonight, sir?
guys.
And what is the question that you have to ask to us, my friend?
So my question is basically about like sequels in esports, like right now CS:GO is coming out, so it's a sequel to CS 1.6, and of course whenever you have a sequel come out, a lot of pros drop off, they retire, right? They don't want to adapt to the new game. I think Curt's had some words about the CS 1.6ers before about how he feels about them, but my question is basically like how esports compares to real sports, right? Like it's a question that's been brought up before. Like there's never going to be a soccer 2.0 or a football 2.0 or something, right? So how does like all these new games, especially with, I mean, Call of Duty is a great example, right? Like there's Call of Duty 11 or something they're going on now. So like when those new games come out, do you guys think it refreshes the scene, or do you think it kind of like breaks it up and, I don't know, disperses everybody and everybody hates each other because they hate the new game?
I suppose.
Honestly, dude, Quake 4 still pisses me off. Like, I'm still bitter about that, and I hate it for giving it away.
I like this guy already, man. I like this guy already. Look at him talking about CS and Quake.
This
Jesus.
is a ringer, Curt.
What?
Don't you lie. You brought him in. You paid him to come in.
Well,
What podcast am I on right now? Jesus Christ. If you guys don't mind, I think I'll take this one, and then you guys.
Oh my God, go right ahead, Curt.
Yeah.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, John, I think it completely depends on the game. I mean, you can look at the fact that yes, Quake 4, for instance, did a lot of detriment to the scene. For that matter, Source did. In that particular matter, I mean, Source really splintered the community, splintered CGS's decision. Of course. Splintered on what kind of support Valve was going to be putting into it, because a lot of people said that, of course, Valve refused to let some people use 1.6, for instance, the CGS. No one really knows whether that's the truth or not, but that's neither here nor there. And then you also have people like Starcraft II. I mean, Starcraft II is the biggest sequel in that sense that has completely changed the community. I mean, the Brood War community for the foreign scene was. Let's be honest, people some people can say what they want, but in the U.S. it was shit. I mean, in the foreign community, it was shit. There was really, comparatively speaking, they were the baby, and they still had amazing gamers. Don't get me wrong, but it was just in Brood War, it was just, it wasn't what it is now, and it wasn't as big as, some of the other games going on at the time. StarCraft II came out, that completely has changed, So I think it completely depends on the sequel. That being said, I think the more interesting question is like the sequels that I think it really depends on the fact that I don't think you'll see a sequel come out that releases a sequel every year that will really refresh the community that much. Do you understand what I mean by that? So for instance, Call of Duty, I don't think a lot of new people are going to be coming in.
Burned out that quick, you mean? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think a lot of new people are going to be coming in for Black Ops 2.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's the same fucking people that are playing Black Ops 2 played Modern Warfare 3 6 months earlier. You know, and that's a real problem that I think that we tend to look over a little bit, is the fact that some of the most successful games in quote unquote esports history have been games that traditionally don't release a lot of sequels. Starcraft II has been in planning for however many years. I think 12, is that right? 10 something, long time anyway. Counter-Strike Source was 5-6 years after 1.6. CS:GO years after that.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think that's one thing we should really talk sort of request from the developers in that sense, and sort of like Jerry has said many times, stop supporting the people that put out the same shit every 6 months or every 9 months. Just stop buying it.
Yeah, but then you get problems like Quake has, though, where Quake 3, which is basically what Quake Live is, right? Like, it's Quake 3 Arena, came out like 97, 98, and that's a really great game, but it's kind of gotten stale. Right? Like, graphically, nobody's really going to get into Quake. Like, it doesn't look like a modern game, right? Yeah, so, I mean, even though it has, like, those great gameplay elements, it's just kind of like, it's been such a long time since that game came out that it can't really get new people anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it's rather unfortunate, but yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, there has to be some kind of refreshing of certain games if you really want to see those certain games. For instance, with Quake, 1.6, we needed that refreshing. I don't think, I've said it multiple times, I don't think CS was or is dead. 1.6, that is. But gaining more traction, definitely not. Gaining more viewers, definitely not. Gaining a lot of more sponsors, most certainly not. I mean, let's be honest. People, as it's said multiple times before, these big graphic card companies and big CPU companies and stuff like that, they don't want to sell you their $700 extreme graphics card for a game that you could run on your TI-83. Yeah,
yeah.
So I mean, it's a great point.
Dude, I think an E-machine can run Quake 3. Like,
my phone can run Counter-Strike.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it.
Like,
yeah, and that's the thing. So that's a real problem, man. Jerry, you got anything to add, Jason?
Well, go ahead, Jerry.
No, I was going to say, I mean, I don't think that, and I time about developers, it's one of those things how we spend our money. And whenever you're looking for dropped Call of Duty and somebody says to me, Call of Duty, as soon as a developer puts out a game that's esports compatible and good for competitive gaming, I'll support it, right? It has become painfully clear that it's not communities, it's not flag waving, it's not all this other stuff. It is the developer's ability, and now the bar is moved, right? I would much rather watch StarCraft or much rather watch League of Legends, especially with their replay mode, as a spectator than I'd want to watch, or fighting games as an example, really easy and fun to spectate, than I would a lot of other things. So, I mean, and not that Counter-Strike did not have a good spectator mode, just for the record, and not that Quake wasn't spectator friendly. I'm just saying that now, now we have higher expectations. And I mean, if we're going to have another first-person shooter, we're going to have something like a single-person shooter like Quake, you're going to need to have something that's up to par technology-wise, because I live in a box. I have choices. I want to spend my time, and I'm going to spend it on the stuff that's most entertaining, visually appealing, looks modern, and most importantly, easy for me as a spectator to get a lot of information, and for casters to do their job and give me a lot of the strategies, slow the stuff down, do slow motion, stuff like that. Legends pushing that envelope, it gets harder and harder to even consider a game that isn't going to have a really great spectator mode, be able to think about And I know it's a challenge for developers, right? They're not used to thinking about people watching the game being played. But if they want to be considered an esport, then they're going to need to do that.
And I think that's probably the biggest problem. The biggest change too is how tournament organizers relate to the developers. You're hard pressed to find a big tournament organizer supporting a game that doesn't have the developer directly supporting them.
Yeah.
You know, and by that I mean, and by support, you know, they always say support. I mean cash.
Prize money, yeah.
Yeah. I mean cash. Like, I mean, people say support, none of them want to say we want money. Like, you'll never hear Sundance say we need money, or you never hear, you know, Adam say we need money. It's always, or David Ting for that matter, say money. It's always support. But that's what they mean in the end, you know.
Yeah, nobody wants to say, like, especially MLG, yeah, we need more money.
Yeah, like, give me money.
They're always getting shit. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, but that's just the truth. So you're not going to see a game become a really big esports in that sense, in my opinion, with the way things have changed, without that direct developer support, direct developer money. So. And some people could say that's a bad thing. Some people say it's a good thing. It doesn't really matter. It's just the way it is. So, awesome. All right, I think we're ready to move on, John. Great question, buddy.
All right. Yep.
Awesome. Thanks for calling. We're going to try to do it every week. So.
All right. I'll have another quick question next week.
Sounds good, buddy.
Thank you, John.
Yeah. Good.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very cool. All right. With that being said, we're going to take our next call. Actually have people in waiting. So let us add to the call the next person on the list. I am adding. And
I'm calling.
And he has a question about League of Legends.
Cool.
So this will be cool. If you have any questions for us, please add me on Skype, vVvParadise. Message me your questions. Make sure you update your Skype as well. There is a new version out. Want to make sure there's no technical issues. And I think we have our next caller with us. Omar Morales is joining us. Actually an applicant to vVv, I do believe. Omar, welcome to the Losers Bracket.
You totally talked to yourself there. It was really funny. I didn't want to interrupt you, but he hasn't answered yet.
Oh, hello. How you?
Oh, there he goes.
That's what
I was waiting for him to finish. I didn't want to interrupt him while he was going on.
I've got like these little dots that show you still calling.
I was just gonna say, what are you talking about?
Throw up that fail sticker, man. That fail.
You got all kinds of dots going on. I want to hear from Omar now. Omar, talk to us.
I just had a quick question. With MLG right around the corner, what do you guys think about the 3-team swap that went down in League of Legends this last week, and how you guys think it's going to affect them in tournament play?
Really good question. Really good question. I definitely want to hear your opinion on this, Omar. I know that you are big into League of Legends as well, but I will say, from what I have seen, I mean, this is always something that's so crazy in competitive gaming, is the amount of team swaps.
And Jason, talk about exactly what happened for those who may have missed the news.
Sure thing. There was a big 3-team swap that went down this past week. It was between, I believe, Dignitas, CLG, and Curse, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Where we actually had like one player that played, what was it, Crumbs, I believe was one of the players that jumped.
Yes, it was actually Crumbs from Curse went to Dignitas to play top lane.
Yep.
Voidboy, who plays top lane for Dignitas, went to CLG to play top lane, and they took Hotshot GG,
put him in jungle,
who plays top lane, and put him in jungle.
Yep. So, huge, big swap around.
And then Saint Vicious from CLG jungling went to Curt.
So big 3-way swap there. And that's really interesting for a couple of reasons, not just because people were swapping from team to team right before a major event, but also because people were swapping positions where they were going to be playing. I mean, it seems questionable, to be totally fair, just because 3 teams now have to learn new chemistry, learn even some new positions. And this is right before one of the biggest league tournaments. I mean, obviously, a lot of these teams are looking down the line towards the Season 2 World Championship way later this year. But MLG is the next big event, if we're not going to at least count the Solo Mid Invitational this weekend, that's going to go down, in 2.5 weeks. I kind of feel it's a questionable call, but at the same time, it's not something that we should be I guess you could say not. We shouldn't be used to this by now. I mean, we see this in other games all the time. I don't know. I'm less enthused about it than some people who I've seen that think, oh, this is a cool move. I don't know. I'm not buying it as a good thing. But Jerry, Curt, I'd love to hear your opinions. Curt, any thoughts?
I mean, I don't follow League of Legends as much as I guess I used to, I would suppose I could say. But didn't Hotshot GG used to jungle? Like, hasn't he jungled in the past? Or am I just completely thinking of someone else?
I don't believe he jungled a lot. I know he has, but he hasn't done it in a long time.
Gotcha.
And
okay.
he's really rusty on it. I actually just saw him in the Reign of Gaming Invitational, which is the Curse tournament, and he was really bad.
Nice. So yeah, I mean, the funny thing here's the funny thing is that I'm just kind of curious. I'm more curious about people like CLG and TSM. I'm more curious if they really care. Do you understand what I mean by that? And if they do, that's fantastic. And I don't follow the scene enough.
But there's money on the line, isn't there?
Right.
If you think
there's money on the line, Jerry. But I mean, in the end, they're making the majority of their money off streaming. And they're making a ton of money off of streaming. And they're not. And a bunch of these players aren't paid salary because they own the organizations in which they have. So it's not like, for instance, with Idra, who makes a lot of his money off of streaming, but he's also paid a salary in order to win, in order to do well, in order to represent his organization. Someone like CLG or someone like TSM, I think, is a better circumstance. TSM's not paid a salary by their organization per se because they own the organization. So it's a completely different dynamic that I'm just very curious to delve into eventually. Is I'm wondering, do they really care? Because it's not like anyone's paying their bills for them to win a tournament. People are paying their bills because of the fact that they've got a ton of viewers on their stream. So that's just a weird dynamic that I wanted to bring up.
I look at it like these changes, right, that happened before. They just really reflect to me the sort of challenge you have with young people being sort of left to manage themselves. They do these things. I guess the question that we should really ask is, who do we feel is coming out ahead in these swaps, right? Who do we feel now stands the best shot? And I wonder if at the end of the day, it isn't really Dignitas, and I'll leave that up to you guys to sort of discuss. But, because I don't want to claim I'm an expert either, much like you, Curt. I think I don't have the long history a lot of people have, but I don't know, Omar, what do you think? Who do you think sort of gained the most?
I think Curse came out really well, right?
I would say Curse probably came out the best because they traded a jungler for a jungler, and obviously I think St. Vicious, just because he's more of a leader and he's one of the top junglers in the game. I mean, trading a jungler for a jungler it's not so bad, but when you get a better jungler, it just, you're better off than where you were. And Voyboy for Dignitas was arguably the best top laner in North America, at least. And you're trading him for Crumbs, who I have never seen him play top lane. I mean, I'm sure he knows how to play the champions and probably knows the matchups, but Voyboy was one of the reasons they made it to the finals in, I believe it was Hanover, I think. He pretty much carried them. And
so here's what I wonder, and to think to that, though, what does it say about Dignitas' management, right? If the team that actually has a manager who's involved and should be involved in that sort of thing ends up basically, according to you, trading down, right? We end up having, a situation. And realistically, I think you might agree, Curt, if there's any team who stands the most to gain sort of financially, it's probably Dignitas' team, because they could have the option of salary from the organization down the road, maybe. I don't know. What do you think, Curt?
Yeah, I mean, as far as I understand, they're getting a decent amount from Dignitas already. So, I mean, they have a responsibility. Unlike CLG, unlike TSM, they have a responsibility. And once again, this is just assumptions here, but they have a responsibility to Dignitas that CLG and TSM might not. I mean, of course, their big thing is still streaming, but it's not, Dignitas is still also a winning organization. They want their teams to win. They're paying their teams to win. They're paying their teams to represent them to win. and Dignitas traditionally has been one of the best teams in America. So you have to have that represented still. So I don't know. And by Dignitas, I mean the LOL team, not the organization, because of course, Dignitas is mainly a overseas organization. But I'm just kind of curious about it.
Here's the official statement from Crumbs about this, just in case anyone wants to hear it. As the Season 2 championship approaches, many teams are scrambling to practice and get into a good stride before this major event. As many of you have guessed, a lot of teams are getting gaming houses as a way to ensure their devotion to the game, as well as increased practice hours to prepare for the gold. Team Curse is no exception. Unfortunately, I cannot attend the gaming house that Curse has so eagerly offered to provide due to personal reasons, primarily university, as I wish to continue my studies without a halt, and moving into a gaming house would not allow me to do so. It is with good blood that I am announcing my leave from Team Curse. I am forever grateful for the opportunities they have provided me in the League of Legends scene and the memories, as well as the friends that I will continue to have over at the Flamed Logo team. It may be sad for some, but I must do what is in my best interest. I would like to thank all of Curse staff for creating one of the most pleasurable work environments I have ever been involved with, as well as the entirety of my team. Jackie, Pobelter, Elements, and Ka for being fantastic teammates, as well as great people and players. And most of all, my manager Liquid112 for having provided me the opportunity to join Team Curse in the first place, and being the most hardworking person I've ever met, as well as handling any situation thrown his way perfectly, including this one. Thank my fans for grinding this with me. They are driving reason behind this game and behind my motivation, and hopefully staying with me in the future. I'm going to try my best to remain in the competitive scene of League of Legends, as I just can't get enough of it. It's been a blast, but this is goodbye to Team Curse, and I wish them nothing but the best in the future.
You read us that whole thing.
I did.
Really, Jason?
Hey, if someone wants to know what's going on, they know what's going on.
But yeah, I mean, it definitely seems more interesting to me, I guess, is the Dignitas side of that. And I think we're going to move on to another call before we have to leave. Is that right? But
actually, I want to be mindful of Jerry's time, because it is 11 o'clock already on the East Coast. I know you're still at your conference.
Yeah, let's do that.
That's fine. Then that's fine.
We can always take more in the future, but because we had a little bit of technical difficulty with Fourth earlier in the show, I do want to be mindful of Jerry's time. And Omar, I really do appreciate you calling in and sharing your League of Legends question with us. And I guess the real answer will come at MLG Anaheim as we see who comes out on top. Would you agree?
I'm really excited to see what happens.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for calling in, and have a good night, my friend.
You guys too.
Take care. All right. That, I think, is just about going to wrap it up for us this week. Apologies to those that did want to see Fourth Oracle on the show. We will schedule him again for the future, and hopefully we won't have any internet issues for him. We'll do more calls in the future as well. But to wrap things up, let's do what we always do and get some shout-outs. Curt, the floor is yours.
Whoop. Can you hear me?
Definitely.
Can you hear me?
I can.
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay, sorry, I got a weird error here. But there we go. Okay. Yeah, I think it was because Omar was still on the call, and then once he ended, it was all right. But anyway, regular shout outs. If you can, check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/check6gaming. Once again, going to do a lot more giveaways here soon, so that'll be kind of cool. Appreciate all the support for the arena for Sleep. He had a lot of people cheering him on. Like I said, we're proud of how he did. Hopefully, he'll be able to do better, even better at MLG Anaheim, where he will be. I think he's automatically seeded to the 6th round of the open bracket. I think that's right, because of the way the arena works. I think that's right. So that's really great for us. He doesn't have to sort of delve through too much of the gauntlet. So that's good. And yeah, that's about it. Thanks to Adebisi for coming on the show. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Adebisi was an awesome guest. Look forward to having him on again in the future. Jerry, any shout-outs before you head out?
No, just, yes, I do have a few shout-outs. I want to give a shout-out to the VV Gaming community for weathering what is our last and final big cut for the year. The rest of you are safe, so to speak. For those of you that are worried if you're still going to be part of VV Gaming, we will revisit Halo and Call of Duty when those new games come out, and then we'll think about how we want to construct the community around that. Guild Wars 2 is a big launch upcoming in June, so we look forward to that. We had to go leaner. and I know that again, some people were complaining. I think we had Archangel, and there was another controversy that erupted too about this Gamma Gamers, and I didn't talk much about that, but I'm a little skeptical about this whole thing. I mean, it just looks a little odd, but we're NOS country, we're not Gamma Gamer country, so if any vVv person or potential applicant gets sort of sucked into that, good luck, but there's no place for it here. Until that organization is properly vetted and we see how it all works out. I just have no interest in it. You have to sort of earn your stripes here, and a lot of people can throw a lot of money, and we'll see, and hopefully that works out for Complexity, and they have their house, and wish them the best. But, this is NOS country here in VV Gaming, just making that really clear to everybody. What's so funny?
Staking that NOS flag, buddy. We're gonna see a fight.
Well, I mean that's just how it is. We're just not. We back the people who back up. That's our job. I mean, if somebody came in here and said, "Hey, I want you to, we want to support Logitech," I would say, "Sorry, it's the Steel Series country here. Get out of here!" Right? So it's the same thing there. So I mean, that's the business of esports. And I think when Archangel left, there's sort of this big drama. People were mean to her on Twitter, and then someone else resigned who was an applicant. If you're wondering what I think about this, none of it bothers me. I could care less. Let me make that clear. I think my staff could care less. We have enormous amounts of work to do in League of Legends. Really hope that we get Fourth Oracle on, because I love his show, Summoner Herald. We have work we want to do with Machinima upcoming. So this train is in its path, and there are going to be minor bumps along the road, and sometimes there are those people going to be asked to leave the train, but that's just how it goes. So a big shout out to staff who do a great job, and to those community members who are weathering the storm. That's it. I think we're right sized now, and I feel better. So shout out to those people. I look forward to next week's show.
Most definitely. A couple of shout outs from myself. Well, they're normal shout outs. If you look right above me, right here, Control Freak, Steel Series, Gamer Grub, are great sponsors. Make sure to support them because they support us. Thank you so much to them. Shout out to the band Power Glove for supporting us by giving us their music so that we can use it here on the show each and every week. Shout out to you guys, everybody who watches the show each and every week. Shout out to our guest tonight, Adebisi. Fourth Oracle, hopefully we'll get him on the show in the future, just like Jerry had mentioned. And if you have any feedback for us, just like I always mention, on the bottom of our little frames here, you can always tweet us any sort of feedback that you have, or if you want to email me directly, paradise@vvv-gaming.com. Definitely want to hear your feedback, always looking to improve the show. So thank you to those that do give me feedback. Really do appreciate it. We did just relaunch our YouTube channel. So if you have not, please head over to the new channel, vVvGamingTV, and subscribe. Like the videos that we've put up there. All our VODs will be there from now on. So make sure to subscribe and check it out. With that being said, I think that just about wraps the show up. We're heading towards MLG Anaheim, and the road's almost there. We're almost there, light at the end of the tunnel, and I look forward to seeing you all there. I think, 2 weeks left? 2 shows left before the big event, if I'm remembering correctly? Yep, 2 shows left. So until then, enjoy. I know a lot of people are still playing Diablo 3. Make sure to hop in our Mumble channel, play with us. We're having a lot of fun with it. And I think that's about it. Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you back here, same time as always, 9 p.m. Eastern, next Tuesday night, on the road to MLG Anaheim. Take care. See you soon. Bye-bye.